Welcome to the August 4th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is meeting minutes dated July 7th, 2026. I have no comments.
No comments.
I do have no comments. I don't have any to review them. Chris, do you have any comments?
No comments, Mike. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Chris, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? How about now?
Chris, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. Where's Chad at?
Or to the next meeting. You don't have to go. This we don't have to vote.
Chris wasn't here last week anyway, or last meeting anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it has to be deferred.
All right, we will defer the meeting minutes until the next meeting. Next item on the agenda is the Route 30 corridor complete streets initiative.
For those one, if you want to bring up the yes. It's okay, I'll stay seated.
You're good.
All right. Well, good evening. Again, Randy Wolfmeyer, Bowman. Giving an update, just to kind of fast forward context for where we went before the supervisors on May 18th. After meeting with the planning commission and shared with the supervisors the several alternatives. And if you recall, Bowman, we were scoped to take one of those alternatives and develop concept plans. So what you have both in the packet, and then we also printed out a large rollout of it. Right? I told the supervisors I'd be back with a plan as long as the table, and if we could, it's 96 inches. I don't know how the table is probably about the same. So, but yeah, it's just good detail. Really, the goal and where we are at with this would be really. I'll give you a quick walkthrough of it. And these are both the same, just obviously for the convenience of printing them out. Let's start. I'll kind of stand up and maybe.
You want me to zoom in?
No, this is actually perfect.
Okay.
So we'll kind of walk through the corridor west to east. So here at so here we have our transition as you would come in from like the Dalesford heading east. Would be the transition from the 2 lanes to 1. And then we'd have the 3-lane cross section as you would approach Leopard Road. Leopard Road has that somewhat unconventional, I'd call it an old school design. And rather, there's the space there to tee that up more traditionally with the turn lanes from a safety perspective. Also can use a little bit, if there'd be really busy traffic, you can sneak out to what's called a 2-stage crossing into that center turn lane, and then kind of yield into the flow as you would head westbound. I would note the orange is all proposed as sidewalk. We heard a lot of comments, especially west of the bridge, about the concern of the absence of sidewalks. So from that complete street walkability perspective, we really are able, we're really trading those extra lanes, that 5-lane cross section, we can narrow and pull that tighter and allow for the sidewalks. Really that then brings us right up to the Bridge Avenue, Old Lancaster intersection, where we see the realignment that we've talked about in the past. Really one of the most critical improvements. We realign and straighten out many of the crosswalks. One thing I would note, we need this right turn lane from a traffic flow perspective. We would have loved to have added sidewalk also on the railroad side of 30. And it's I'd say anything's possible with enough money, but I think for right now, we've right-sized this. Really also, there's no businesses on this side of 30. Certainly till you get down to the train station, which we'll see on the next slide. So for that, we decided to keep this kind of value engineered even in this very conceptual stage and just kept the sidewalk on that south side.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
For that Bridge Avenue going across to Lancaster? It doesn't look like we're acquiring any land. Is that possible?
Here on
Yeah.
the southeast quadrant, that is where we're, the current alignment would be roughly here on my pen. So it is,
Oh, I
it is,
see,
it is pulling over, into the, what's that, the tire shop, car wash combination.
Brick wall, it's just all decorated.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
Yeah.
the,
That's adorable.
Well, this is not happening anytime soon, so
Yeah.
a little time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But that would allow the eliminate the double cycling or whatever you call it, the way
the
this.
split phasing.
Yeah.
If anything, and so next meeting, Tom and Aaron from Commit Associates will be adding to it the streetscaping element. And I would say a great placemaking location would now be the exact opposite side of the intersection. That's all, where today we have Bridge Avenue really becomes almost reclaimed or so perhaps another a mirrored plaza could be located right in that location. Again, we know it's a critical intersection where you want a sense of arrival as you're coming into the village. So yeah, I see that value. Really, I think for our goal this evening is to try to get to almost a base condition. And then Tom and Aaron can kind of fill in the landscaping and plaza making plan on top of this kind of this base kind of roadway plan. Then as we move into the village,
Sorry, but we the, so I know that right from Lancaster onto Old Lancaster, I think is what slows down traffic quite a bit, because it's a really tight right-hander, so. Are you leaving that with just with the extra lane, or will we be routing? Be changing that intersection?
this radius right here,
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's the existing radius.
it's pushed out a little
Little
bit.
bit, okay.
We're constrained by the bridge. The
Yeah.
bridge is kind of the critical, but it's pushed out a little bit there.
But
It's a
you
little
have a
more.
decel lane will help. 'cause
Yes, the
yeah,
decel lane is gonna get you, so yeah, that,
so you don't have it all.
if you're coming straight through to Dalesford, you,
Yeah.
yeah, you'll have, yeah. Any other questions here on these first two panels or comments? Then as I would note, just here, then we start to pick up some, well-defined on-street parking. Knowing that we know parking in the village is a goal and a concern currently. So, some very good definition of parking, and then, of course, that continuation of the sidewalk. Now, let's go to that next panel. Really, then we continue, so here we have a 12-foot curved lane, the 10-foot center, the 10-foot through lane, 3-foot buffer, which we use because of the on-street parking. We don't want to have what's known as dooring, where if you open that door, that can be a safety issue. So we add that 3-foot buffer there, for a safety perspective there. And then where available, the 8-foot parking and a 5-foot sidewalk. I would note, the village standards, ideally are a 6-foot sidewalk. We're gonna look at that with Tom and Aaron to see if we can get that out to a consistent 6-foot width. So we're still early on in refining that and knowledgeable of that requirement. Some other additional defined on-street parking, Then here with we certainly know that the need for a mid-block crossing, we've observed plenty of pedestrians currently crossing that 4-lane cross section and really having no location for a refuge. We could even think about adding some perhaps brick texture there so that even if you cross it one direction at a time, it's a more comfortable. I was crossing 12 or 15 feet twice can be easier than crossing 40 or 45 feet all in one foul swoop. And then of course some additional on-street parking even down in front of the new booth shop there at Woodside as we continue to head east.
Great, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I think the headline on the top panel there is, by narrowing the road, is we can now get the sidewalk across the front of the SEPTA lot.
Yes.
Right. Which does not exist today. It's gonna be a big.
Yes, thank you for amplifying that, Chris. Absolutely. We heard lots of folks when we especially had our farmers market at the farmers market or our listening session at the farmers market. Many folks would tell us, I come across the bridge, but then I have to cross 30, come down throughout this corridor only to now cross again. And so yes, that train station segment is going to really provide that.
Randy, that's right that's a crosswalk there, or that's going over the tracks right there.
Yep.
So that connects all those apartments and all those, all that tight sort of urban living or suburban type village like living on the other side is all accessible via
Yeah.
sidewalks, safe access to the side.
Yeah, and really, if you can really appreciate this on this plan, that really you can, there's orange from here all the way down basically to Tom, then you could walk from playing again sports to the car dealerships all on a provided sidewalk. I maybe shouldn't provide this bias, but that to me is very exciting and I think shows a real nice fulfillment of some of the goals of the project. Here at, I would note, we're aware that the Berwyn Square project is perhaps gaining momentum. This is compatible with their land development plans. We looked at that closely. Again, because this concept is really proposing to push the curb line out into the roadway so that this would not conflict with the Berwyn Square land development plans. We'd say we did not have the roundabout yet ready for review. We can't make that same statement, I would say, for the roundabout concept. There would be conflict with the Berwyn Square project. That may even, in our opinion, kind of put that idea on life support at this point. We do think for that reason, this is the alternative 2A where this is the signal, and that probably is emerging as the preferred of the two, especially given some of those land development constraints.
And that, as you've shown, it is considerably more effective from a pedestrian standpoint, just based upon the shortness of the crossing.
Absolutely, yeah. And then here, especially while we have provided on-street parking, then we like to bump that out, gain that back, that extra 10 feet that would otherwise would be there, but all with that goal of providing the shortest pedestrian crossing possible. In our we call, that's with the longer the crossing, the more you're exposed to live traffic. So we always seek to minimize that, and especially there with the bump out. And it also provides good clear sight distance. You don't want cars parked all the way up to the intersection anyway. So the bump out gives a lot of good, and it really gives even a strong corner if the project, the Berwyn Square project, that whether it's their landscaping, again, that's where Tom and Aaron will add that detail, but it'll also give us a really strong presence to that. And then here we continue the 3-lane cross section east of Midland. Again, another location where there's very minimal of very limited sidewalk amenities. And really they are able with the 3-lane cross section to continue all the way all the way really down the lakeside, which we'll see on the last panel. Comments, questions? And then here lakeside, really we see the sidewalk coming down. Here we and it's actually well timed within the next agenda item with the discussion of Old Lancaster and Lakeside. This is, I would think, where we call the most conservative of the. We actually have 3 alternatives here for 30 and Lakeside. In fact, those we did not they did not make it in the PDF packet. In your printed packet, I would note we included the other 2 alternatives. Those would be your last 2 pages in the packet. So second to last is the notion of offsetting the 2. We know that one of the challenges right today is that long skew that's created by Lakeside. So and especially today, you're crossing a 5-lane cross section. And then that skew just adds to that length. Here, just tightening that up to a 3-lane cross section, already the time needed to cross that in a vehicle is brought down. And that is by itself will add the safety improvements. Then these other 2 alternatives, which we have shared with this group before, but the second is that offsetting those 2 and more bringing them separated. And then the third alternative would be actually the closure or prohibition of traffic crossing Lakeside. In this effort, we have not run a capacity analysis of those 3, but Chris and the Old Lancaster effort have looked at some of the capacity operations there. So I'll kind of table that and allow Chris to kind of fill in some of those questions or gaps there. So yeah, we'll be back again next meeting with Tom and Aaron to really again kind of lay in some of the landscaping and other placemaking elements to the space.
Have there been any discussions with PennDOT? Any further discussions?
Great question. They laid out this was back in February or March. 4 questions and they looked at our initial review, our initial analysis. We responded to all 4 of their questions in the April-May time period. We have not received any further comment back yet from PennDOT.
Is that good or bad? Who knows?
We've talked about this between the team and staff. And I think in a perfect world, we'd love to get one more round of comment back for them. Frankly, I'd love for them to say, we love this concept. Done. Tell us when you're ready to design and build it. I think we're that one conversation away from that. I do think we can land and wrap up this study and plan even without that. I think most importantly, they have not thrown, if they would have objected to this, I really get the strong feeling that they would have gone on the record already with that feedback. We are going to, frankly, I was going to wait to make sure no major curveballs came out from the planning commission or otherwise, and we are going to remain persistent with trying to follow up. And I'd love to get that one last comment from.
Randy, is there any aspect of it that you think PennDOT would find objectionable? is there something about it that you're worried about, or that you think in the past you've seen them object to those things?
If I go really, really deep in my concern, and this is not at the top anywhere close, but they could ask about no bike lanes on the project, especially in the village. Now, I think my defense of that would be that the township has used Berwyn Avenue as that east-west corridor, already has Share the Road Sharrows on it. And that is considered a much more safe, low-stress corridor for cyclists.
So PennDOT, do you think PennDOT might be concerned that it isn't bike pedestrian friendly enough? They want it to be, they want more compromise of the vehicle and more bike ped friendly.
At least bicycle, pedestrians, we've clearly, I think, knocked it out of the park. But but we have designed, I'm thinking even Chris, Marshallton Village, where there's no bike lane. There's plenty of projects that have come online that have not provided such. But yeah, I would be shocked if they would throw up that concern. Yeah, but and we're gonna follow up with the traffic unit, knowing that one more check-in, even if it's an email correspondence, would help us kind of close that loop.
If I can add, I'd be surprised, I mean, but listen, I'm not gonna predict what PennDOT's gonna say. I'd be surprised if they push for a bike lane, I think,
It would seem like a fatality.
on a road like this. Yeah, so, but I think, and the other thing I'll say is, although we haven't gotten an answer from PennDOT, it has not been for lack of trying. You know, Randy has been following up with PennDOT regularly, so I don't want you to think we've been just kicking back waiting. I mean, we have been persistent already, and we'll continue to be persistent. I think the big wild card is we still don't have sort of officially the endorsement of this road dotted concept. You know, that to
From
me,
the supervisors or from
from PennDOT.
yeah.
Right, I mean, that was your question, what might PennDOT?
Sort of, you
Object
know,
to?
these things put a little compromise on traffic, and PennDOT is balancing that.
Well, PennDOT still hasn't officially.
But this is everything the rest of the world is turning to.
Yes.
This is if they're not gonna endorse this, then they shouldn't endorse anything.
But I'm sure you've gotten this question and we'll get it, but if someone will say between City Line and whatever, Malvern, Lancaster is never not 2 lanes. Why is it okay to be 1 lane here?
Short answer is the volumes are less.
Yeah.
That's just, I'm generally with you guys, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that, I think the more we beef
Yeah.
up that argument, that's what needs to carry the day. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, past, you go past 352, I think, before we, no, it's before that, so, yeah.
Yeah, and we have mapped.
West in Fraser, west of
Yeah, past
52,
23,
and then
yes, yeah.
and then through West Whiteland, past the
It's
mall.
all lane there.
It's 1 lane each direction.
Yeah,
And you think the traffic data that you've shown to us will be compelling to them, that you are not adversely affecting traffic? In
Yeah.
some ways, you are improving the traffic flow.
And that is where we modeled that out, the 20 years, we used an overly conservative growth factor. And all of that analysis shows that this will work for the next 20 years and then some. That to me was the huge technical challenge, and some of what the first round of PennDOT comments, they asked for us to look at it slightly differently. And we addressed those concerns. They were nice enough to provide us another project the way they wanted us to run the numbers, and we used exactly that. So that was gracious of them, I'll say, to say, just do it this way. We did that, we have no failing movements in that 20-year projection.
But we're still just waiting for that thumbs up.
right.
Why does Fraser fail so much then, that traffic on Route 30 as it goes down from 4 lanes to 2 lanes? With the turning lanes in the middle, Fraser, as you go past 401, the traffic's always bad in that area.
It's 4 lanes, and then it goes down to the 1 lane in each direction, I guess, west of the main lane. And then it
Yeah.
continues.
Right. And that's a whole.
And where it's really gets snarled is at Church Road and 30 and 352 and 30. And that's just because that is such a major intersection. That's a high volume state route designated intersection with a lot of turning movement activity. We don't have that type of intersection within this study area. We don't have it 352 and 30. These are more local intersections. And in fact, there is a project underway in East Whiteland to fix that intersection. Not to belabor it, but initially the township, East Whiteland, was going to go to 2 lanes in each direction through the 352 intersection. But actually DBRPC said, no, don't do it. Keep it 1 lane each direction. So we're keeping it 1 lane each direction, but we're adding turning lanes to fix 352 intersection, but it will stay 1 lane each direction. But really your intersections are your choke points.
Yeah.
And if we can solve the intersections, then everything else outside of it flows.
Then they have had a massive development out there.
Oh, yes. With more to come.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how
Yeah.
many additional parking spaces will there be?
You know, I haven't done a fresh count of the plan since, let me, even while Chris is presenting, I'll do a fresh count, because we had some really early preliminary numbers, and I wanna make sure that I give you the most accurate number there. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep asking, but one more question, sorry. In these kind of things, there's always an element of just of sending traffic elsewhere, presumably. But you got 2 things that would probably protect against that. One is that it's that idea, like, it isn't, you don't have major you might divert some local traffic, but if people don't like the cart, they're gonna make decisions elsewhere. They're not gonna enter the cart, or it isn't like they're gonna enter the cart or come across this and then drive across local roads.
Yeah.
So, and then the fact that the data that you showed indicated that you were moving the traffic between those 2 elements. I'm thinking you're not gonna see sort of the disrupt, I just see traffic move to other local roads the way you would if you saw 2 state highways, you would divert one to another kind of thing.
Right. Especially with the travel time modeling we did, that you don't see a large variance between them. Yes.
So those that decide that they don't like the new pattern will probably have to make a decision very far away and not enter the pattern.
Yes.
They won't divert on local roads because they don't like it.
And that's to a large extent what we see already, that what the law we have in Berwyn is maybe folks already at the 252-30 intersection in Paoli coming out of Tredyffrin, already saying, you know what, I'm gonna head down 252 south, maybe make my way to the 202 corridor. And I think that's one of those key decision points that, or Old Eagle School Road, and so that, yeah, the decision points are much further removed.
Yeah, so next up on the agenda is the Old Lancaster Avenue and North Lakeside Road intersection study.
You good? All right, thanks. Good to see everybody. So I did hand out this agenda, which includes some of the material that may have also been in your packet on Friday. But real quickly, what we're going to do this evening is we're going to review the future traffic conditions analysis of each of the alternatives that we've tested, looking for your feedback. If we're able to begin to move towards a preferred alternative, that would be great. And then we'll talk about next steps. Just in this packet that I handed out this evening, under the category of presentation summary, there is a lot of information that we could theoretically discuss tonight, but I'm going to try and keep it as tight as possible. And in the interest of trying to keep it tight, I'm going to kind of direct you to, and again, this is new in the handout, this presentation summary. So we'll kind of follow along with that. So I was before you in early July. We talked about existing condition. We talked about think 9 different potential alternatives that we could evaluate going forward. And then the planning commission selected 3 alternatives for further evaluation. There's 4 we consider the no build alternative, right? Do nothing. And then the 3 new alternatives, alternative 1, I'll call it, was leave Lakeside and Old Lancaster alone, but just go to the one lane underpass. So that we can try to fit a pedestrian path under the bridge. So that was the first alternative that was tested. And then the next alternative was this, previously we called it option C, which is converting Lakeside and Old Lancaster Road to one-way westbound. And then the third alternative was the former option F, which was designating Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside Avenue for one-way eastbound. In each of those 2 alternatives, alternative 2 and 3, right, one-way westbound, one-way eastbound, we are carrying forward the one lane under the bridge. So that's kind of consistent, all of the alternatives. So that was the recommendation we had at the July Planning Commission meeting. We did not then just immediately start testing the alternatives with the traffic analysis because we had to check in with the Board of Supervisors. They wanted to, they're keeping tabs on this and they want to make sure that they agree. And they want to give the opportunity to sort of endorse the recommendations coming from the Planning Commission. So 2 weeks ago, we met with the Board of Supervisors. They agreed with the recommendations coming from the Planning Commission. So that we've only had 2 weeks now to then really begin to test this. So we've been very busy over the last 2 weeks. I don't have it all kind of packaged up in a nice little bow on top of it, but we've done a lot of work. And again, we could talk about this at length this evening, but I'll try and keep it fairly tight.
Good question.
Yes.
You said did they agree, did they talk about different alternatives or they just agreed with, the idea of making it one way and then
They agreed.
crashing it out or?
Yeah, they agreed with the 3 alternatives that the Planning Commission recommended. There was some discussion about, because of the challenges of taking a 20-foot wide road under the bridge and making it a one lane.
Yeah.
One of the members of the supervisors, and I don't remember which one, said, what if we permanently convert Old Lancaster Road under the bridge to one way, one direction to the other? Which is an interesting idea. It would solve a lot of traffic problems if you don't, because right now, if we keep it a reversible kind of 2-way flow within one lane, you've got to, like you get in rural parts of Chester County, it's a one lane bridge, we've got to take a turn. So there was that comment. There was some concern that if you make it one way permanently in whichever direction, it will have a ripple effect and create diversions elsewhere. So at the end of the day, it wasn't suggested to move forward with that. There was also the question from one of the supervisors said, why are we trying to fit everything under the bridge? Why aren't we just talking about building a parallel pedestrian tunnel under the rail line? Which, again, in a perfect world, if we had lots of time and lots of money, we would do that. And I think that still should be a recommendation long term. But the whole reason for this project as a project coming from the Planning Commission is to try to do something sooner.
Yeah.
Right. To get a pedestrian tunnel under the bridge would not happen within a short period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that was largely the conversation. Other than that, they agreed with the alternatives that were recommended.
Thank you.
So moving to number 2 under presentation summary. So, well, let me take a step back. So looking at, so these are all new figures that you have before you. Figure 10 is just like the police street study, we projected volumes 20 years into the future to the year 2045. So these are 2045 volumes. We don't spend any time talking about that. If we move to figure 11, these are 2045 levels of service, right? So levels of service are the measures of delay, but this is under the current road network, so no changes. And what does it show? It shows, in most cases, the levels of service work fine. 20 years in the future, everything's going to work fine with the current road configuration, but we do have delays on the side street at Lakeside and 3rd. Not a surprise, as a stop controlled intersection. If we go to figure 12, so figure 12 is 2045 traffic conditions, but it's now with the complete streets improvement, right? So we haven't done anything with the one-way patterns yet, but it's just simply how are these intersections going to work in 2045 with complete streets? So the only difference here is Route 30 has been dropped from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction. What happens is we still have delay in the side street of Lakeside and 30. The delays get worse with the Complete Streets project, because now you've got one lane in each direction on 30, so you've got all that traffic now funneled into one lane, so you have tighter flows, less gaps in traffic, so it's harder for your side street movements to turn onto Route 30. So the delays get a little worse if we do nothing, if we implement Complete Street improvements, but don't do anything at that intersection. So some of that kind of segues or kind of ties into what Randy was talking about, and we'll come back to that. So figure 13, so this is the first testing of alternatives. This is two-way flow, one lane under the bridge. This is a hard puzzle to solve, but we looked at it 5 different ways. I could spend a lot of time talking about it, but I'll tell you what the alternatives were. 1A is essentially keeping it stop sign control on either side. You know, the 2 intersections. Let me back up. Rural Chester County, you have a few one-lane bridges. What tends to work well with those is if you have a straight approach to the bridge where you have a clear line of sight to oncoming traffic, and then everybody can alternate. You also tend to have low volumes of traffic. What makes this a challenge is we don't have a straight approach to the one lane under the bridge. You've got an intersection on either side, so we have to manage that traffic at an intersection, and then also manage that traffic alternating under the bridge. And oh, by the way, we've got a lot of traffic, right? This is fairly high volume. So 1A attempts to, well, it evaluates one lane under the bridge. So now you've got basically traffic taking turns. Every other car is alternating under that one lane bridge. And then you have stop signs on either side at each of the intersections. And you can see a lot of levels of service F. The delays are just untenable. It just stop sign control doesn't work. Option 1B basically converts those stop signs to traffic signals. So you'd have a traffic signal. Essentially, it operates as one massive signal. You have 3 signalized approaches on the north side, 2 signalized approaches on the south side. It actually operates like one massive 5-phase signal because everybody has to take their turn. That actually works because you can build up a little bit of a queue. So visualize if you're coming on the north side down Francis Avenue, that is a very heavy movement into the village of Berwyn. You know, when that light turns red, you build up a little queue, but when it turns green, now you're letting all that traffic flow through. Whereas with the stop sign, everybody has to stop, right? But now you build up a little demand and then you release it and all that traffic can move through. So option 1B with a signal actually works. We have acceptable levels of service. There's no level of service E or F. 1C looks at what we call neighborhood traffic circles, right? It's not a full-blown wide roundabout like you may be familiar with, Swarthmore or
Like the one in Aronimink.
Aronimink, right, exactly, right? Those are full official roundabouts. This is what we call a neighborhood traffic circle, and it's really intended more for local roads, lower volumes, but unfortunately, these volumes aren't quite low enough. You've got the challenge of managing traffic within each of the 2 intersections, but you still have to alternate traffic one at a time on either side of the tunnel. And so the levels of service just don't hold up. We've got delay and level of service F. 1D is like a variation on 1A, right? Stop sign control. But what 1D does is, you can see we put sort of a bend in Francis Avenue on the north side. It actually takes Francis Avenue and it makes that more of the through movement. So you're not stopping traffic at that intersection, but where we are stopping them is we've moved that stop sign to the north side of the railroad bridge. You do have to stop traffic before they get to the bridge, but we've eliminated the stop sign further back at the intersection with Warren Avenue and Old Lancaster Road. And you've got a fair amount of, I did a cartoon sketch. This is not engineered by any means, but just to sort of give you an idea of what we were thinking. You know, that's what that does. It doesn't work, unfortunately. But there's 2 there. So that's the concept of 1D. Again, it doesn't work, unfortunately. But we were just trying to develop a creative idea to keep, again, we know that's our issue. It's that we're just trying to keep Francis Avenue flowing. And then one
And it
E,
doesn't work because it produces S
It-
on the.
well, because you still have to stop, everybody still has to stop at the stop sign before at the time. Right, and as long as that's the case, you're gonna have delays. One E then is similar to one B in that it's a traffic signal, but it builds on the realigned Francis Avenue. So instead of signalizing all three legs on the north side, you keep the stop sign on Warren and Old Lancaster, but you move the signal just so there's one signal head on the southbound approach to the tunnel. And this works slightly better than one B. So the long story short is, we need a signal if we're gonna make this work. One B and one E both work, one E works, I'll say works a little bit better. One E has challenges though, right? We've got to like after tonight, we're gonna go out there and we've got to look at sort of feasibility issues. Do we think this can work? So that was a lot of information, but that's sort of the whirlwind tour of options that we could consider for alternative one with going with the one lane on the bridge. Any questions on that before I go any further?
Decently confident that either B or E will work.
At this point, I do, but we do need to, the next step is to kind of test it in the field a little bit, look at some design and feasibility issues. But so far, so good.
And so if we went with the signalized option, where would you put the pedestrians to walk?
So this doesn't show it yet, right? We haven't done that, but the whole concept with all of these, and again, these plans, this was really more intended to give you the idea, to show the flow of Francis Avenue. What we're going to do is we're gonna take the 20-foot lane or the 20-foot roadway under the bridge, that'll probably drop down to 14 feet, and then we will have a 6-foot dedicated pedestrian path next to the travel lane.
Yeah, but like, so if you have the cars coming around here.
Right.
Right? And then they're stopping here.
Yep.
Would you bump them to this, like, how would you get pedestrians under?
We haven't really thought that, we haven't figured that out yet, but I think what we probably want to do is. So you do have that new Hamlet Circle, that neighborhood there, they've got sidewalks in that neighborhood. And we've got all this land on the north side of the railroad tracks. I'd keep the sidewalk along the south side of Francis Avenue, bring it down, they never have to go into the road. They'll just stay on the west side as they go under the rail line, and then they're on the west side, and it brings them right into the heart of the village of Berwyn, which is where most of the pedestrians want to go anyway. Now, we will want to cross them further back because you've got neighbors on the north and the east side, and so we're gonna have to figure out where to cross them. Ideally, we probably, if you're on Old Lancaster Road to the east where the speed humps are, you'd probably bring a short segment of sidewalk down and then cross them in front of the stop bar. You'd have a crosswalk.
Wait,
Can't-
where are the speed bumps?
Back here.
Oh.
We probably
okay.
bring a sidewalk down here and then cross
I
here
got you.
to get down.
Oh, so you're bringing them down here, I got you. Cause
Yeah.
I was looking from this perspective.
Well, no, yeah, we're gonna bring them here
Yeah.
I think we're still in this.
and then just bring them right down. But for people that live here, we're probably gonna have to do something like this.
Couldn't we just cross on, isn't there sidewalk over here, crossing this way?
There's not sidewalk there.
Just to address.
And then whatever we gotta get them over this side of the road.
Yeah.
So I'd probably rather cross them in front of the stop bar with a signal, potentially.
Yeah.
Some of that, not all of this we're gonna be able to answer within a planning study. Some of this is gonna have to get, if we move ahead with actual design of an improvement, that's where some of this is gonna get figured out.
And this, like, this signal would look like traffic signals, right?
Oh, yeah,
Like big ones
they'd be traditional signals.
on, where would you mount them, on poles?
Don't forget.
Oh,
But yes,
Yeah.
poles, mast arms, probably, yeah, both.
I would note in Cowan Township, Lloyd Avenue, there was, it was a 2-lane, 1-lane bridge, had been stop controlled. Happens to be right near Downingtown West High School, so it gets a lot of morning traffic. The queues there, you'd be 20 cars deep at the stop control. They changed it to signals and now you maybe hit 3 or 4 cars and get across. And there were even some,
Is it 1 lane under or 2 lanes?
it's 1 lane, yeah.
The one off the Boot Road?
It's over.
Lloyd Avenue. There's also the boot under the Amtrak.
Functions really well.
Yeah. I think they did the Cowan one, saw how well it worked, and it motivated PennDOT to signalize boot
Yeah.
similarly.
Yeah, it's a very effective.
Yeah. That's pretty much what 1B would function as.
So, again, we're looking at either 1B or 1E as the options that probably make the most sense. The long and the short of it is there's enough volume out here. Nick even said it when we met in early July. He was looking at the counts and his heart sank because he said, oh gosh, there's enough volume here. This may need to be signalized. And he was right. It doesn't work any other way.
And just in general, all this modeling is population growth, no changes in behavior from any of these changes, just things, here are the
Just-
cars today, here's what the cars.
Grow it, yep. Right. It will, if we make some of these changes, may we push some people out of the network? Potentially. Might we bring people in? Potentially.
That's, I mean, I'd argue to have some behavior change, because it's not, I mean, it's. Part of it is making this harder for vehicles to cross, so it's better for pedestrians.
Yeah. And so you may
Put traffic over a bridge or.
Right.
Back to death.
And you know what, back to the complete streets plan, should we at some point be able to fix bridge in Old Lancaster?
That would
Would you
help
offer
too,
that?
yeah. I think this is probably worse than reality, I think. Probably conservative projections, in my opinion, I don't have no expertise, but.
Well, no, agreed, so. Not that I'm looking to add scope, but we could test each of these 5 alternatives
And, right.
under today's volumes. Like if you just dropped this improvement out there today, how
Right,
does it work? But we did it for one of them. I can't remember which one. If you drop these alternatives out there today, we probably could live with this for a period of time. Probably. You probably could live with this 1D option as a stop sign control for a number of years.
Yeah.
Until such time as the signal becomes necessary.
right,
So we could take a phased approach.
And 1D would cost just about nothing. You could,
right,
you put in signs, put in some paint, you could put in bollards, like,
right,
I'm not saying it's a Boy Scout project, but it could be almost nothing. And then you hated it.
That'd be a
you just
video
look
game
at it.
take it out.
Yeah,
If it
Well,
does-
and it would set you up, right? It's,
But-
stop signs are
Yeah.
sort of the step one to eventually needing a
Yeah.
signal.
I will say that, and I understand that's not necessarily part of this scope, but whatever direction we go. Facilitating the pedestrian access across those intersections is gonna be critical, because that's the whole reason we're doing this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Could I
Yeah,
ask?
we'll look into that a little bit as we go beyond after tonight, but
Right.
right now we were just trying to figure out, is there a way that we can adequately manage the traffic?
But there is. There is area to do it seems.
Yes.
Chris, do we know, does 1A, like, which is the most simplest,
Yes.
does that work under 2025?
Honestly, I can't remember which one we sort of tested it. Oh. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
I don't remember.
What 1D
We'll take a
was
look at it.
done,
Right.
that's kind of like, well, there's a little bit with that little Francis curve, but.
But it's not much.
Okay.
It's not much.
yeah, it'd be a really good Eagle Scout project.
But we could look at that. I do think there's merit to living with it for a period of time with an interim improvement until such time as the signal truly becomes necessary. Signal's gonna shake people up a little bit. If you live in that area, you're not gonna be too happy about a traffic signal.
Yeah,
And
but if it's
it's a-
against the, if E is a lot different than B.
Pardon me?
E is a lot different than B, I mean, if Nick was right up the street, I'd love to hear his thoughts on it, but.
Yeah, well, and that's why we came up with E
Because
because,
signal above the,
yeah, that's why we came up with E because as the more we were looking at it, 1B, you know, that,
that's all,
I'm a neighbor, I may not be too happy with that.
agree.
Well, if you actually make that road what is it, Lakeside? That if it gets to be one way, there wouldn't be two signals on the south side then, right, or there? Okay.
Well, that's coming up next.
Okay.
We haven't done that yet. You're right. You're right, on the south side. Yep, you're right. So,
If you signalize it, sorry, Chris, if you signalize it down where Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside Ave, where the two traffic lights are in 180.
Yeah.
Like would the traffic, the people sitting at the light, I guess the queue, like would that back up and block the Casey's intersect or like entrance?
it would for a period of time, but when light turns green, it'll clear. So the queue there, these are 20-year numbers and the queue is like 120 feet. So it's not unbearable, but you've got so many closely spaced driveways, Casey's, you got the parking lot
Yeah,
across the street.
the big thing would be the parking lot,
Yeah.
because people are in and out of that.
You will have a queue that extends across
Yeah,
the frontage of those driveways. It is unavoidable.
yeah,
But then when the light turns green, it'll clear.
It's probably key for the supervisors to realize that there's no solution that comes without some kind of compromise. So there's some kind of trade-off,
There-
no matter what they're about.
There is one other option, and that is 352, we were just talking about 352 and 30 in Fraser. Well, just south of 30, 352 goes under the rail line. And there is a signal on either side. And that signal is there for one reason, and that is if there's a pedestrian,
Right,
they hit the button, it's two-way, it stays two-way flow under the railroad bridge. But if a pedestrian comes along, I don't know why they have it, because there's no sidewalks leading to it, but.
yeah,
I've
I've never seen it used, but yeah.
Yeah, if there is a pedestrian that needs to travel under the bridge, they hit the button, the light stops all traffic on both sides, and then the pedestrian can walk through.
You know why that was there?
And then once the pedestrian clears, it goes back to two-way flow. It gets used like once a week. We check with the police. That is another option that would allow us to maintain two-way flow, but it doesn't avoid a signal. Now, the signal doesn't go,
Right,
it would go red more often than we have in 352, because you've got a lot more pedestrian opportunity here. But is that the same experience for a pedestrian? Is it gonna feel like the same experience? That pedestrian is still now walking in the road. They don't have a dedicated sidewalk, which is what I think the planning commission was ultimately hoping for.
and I would imagine that, I don't know what the delay is on it, but. You hit it, it's gotta be a 45-second red light, right? To
No.
allow for
No,
that kind of.
what's the
distant
length?
travel.
Yeah, I mean, the length under that bridge, what do we think it is? What's the length of that bridge? Even if I say 50 feet, which I'm not sure that it is, I don't know, 3.5 feet per second. If it's 3.5 feet per second, if it's a 50-foot long section under the bridge, I'm not sure that's the right dimension. You would need to give the pedestrian 14 seconds to get through, and then you have some kind of factor of safety time, so maybe 20-25 seconds. But that's just when the pedestrian calls the signal,
Right.
and then that will create a bit
Create
of
a
a
queue
queue,
of
so it'll have demand.
intersections.
And then once that pedestrian clears, the light goes back to just allowing two-way flow, it'll eventually clear.
Right.
So,
Notably, Whitford Road, the Whitford train station has that
Same thing.
exact same setup. Now that gets called because the trains drop 50 passengers off there, right on top of it.
so that would be the only other variation on this, but it doesn't, those pedestrians, when they hit the button, they're walking in the road, hoping
Right.
everybody obeys the
I
signal.
guess if it were lighter, it wouldn't be so horrible. If there were
Yeah.
lights under there. it would-
Well,
I was just gonna say,
dark.
We're gonna, I think we've heard that, I think the supervisors may have mentioned it, the planning commission definitely mentioned it, I think. Whatever we do here, it will have to be illuminated under the bridge.
That one I haven't been through, the one I'm pretty sure.
Any questions or leaning towards an option you'd be most comfortable with for this location? Because then we can get to the one-way westbound, eastbound discussion.
Honestly, I think 1E is a pretty elegant solution. I am surprised that you would need to signalize it. I do think that by making this more pedestrian friendly and a little less vehicle friendly, you will see less traffic.
Right.
I think people will use alternate routes. So I'd be tempted to try it, to do the real world experiment with the stop signal,
But
but I get that.
Do we phase it?
The rules.
do we, oh, what's that? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, I'm sort of like Don's idea of you try it in the real world with stop, with the.
Stop signs.
Yeah. And
Well, I
you
could
see
tell-
how much less traffic you actually see there, or does it really cause an issue?
Yeah, we could test 1D based on today's volume.
Right, yeah,
And if it works today, then we know we've got at least a few years before, we'll be able to monitor it. And as volume and demand increases, there'll come a time that it needs to be signalized.
And Bill, I think what you're saying is that if it has that effect, it might never become non-compliant, or it might never become F because it will, which some people will hate, it will divert some of that traffic elsewhere.
right.
A silly question, but do they make like a temporary traffic signal?
Sure.
Like, would that be an option to see
Test
actually test it without a stop sign?
Yeah, you see them whenever they're doing some
Construction.
one lane road control, yeah.
Yeah, they don't wanna put flaggers up.
They have them, like they can wheel them in and they're, on a generator,
I
or
was
they
in
can electrify.
one a long time ago, I lived in California on a motorcycle trip, and it was a 35-minute red light.
Oh, because they had the road closed.
It was like 8 miles
Yeah.
of road on the side of a cliff we're working on, yeah.
Yeah, we probably want to limit this to like 60 minutes, probably, right?
Yeah.
I think more people will use it because it'll be so walkable. There's that huge neighborhood right there. and
Yeah.
It would be great to walk into town, and I never felt really comfortable in it.
Right. I was out there last week and I saw two people, somebody older and somebody younger and spry, and they walked under that tunnel today. They were looking, they had their head on a swivel. They were not comfortable in that pedestrian movement. So anyway, is that sort of the initial consensus, is kind of plan for 1E? But maybe see if we can advance 1D and maybe in an interim, I'll test it to see if it works with today's traffic. And then maybe we can live with 1D for a period of time.
I think
before the
that
signal becomes more.
I think that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
would say 1D works with today's traffic, I would think, implementing it makes sense.
Right. Okay.
No point.
Doesn't it work better too if that becomes one way on the south side?
Yeah,
We're getting there, I think.
get to that,
Yeah.
Chris, yeah, it's gotta be, right?
And would it work with the numbers? Like, we did it in the summertime. Somebody at the last commission said,
We did what in the summer?
we did, like, didn't you take this?
Counts were done in like the last day of April.
So it included school traffic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, that was my.
I think that's why this would get traffic, is because people avoid the bridge because of the school traffic.
Okay. So I think that was gonna be the lengthiest discussion this evening, so hopefully the rest goes smoothly. Figure 14, Colin, if we can go to the next slide, so. Now, we took the 2045 volumes, and if we can move up on the slide.
Sorry, I was waiting for.
That's okay. So I'm gonna spare you all the details, but we manipulated and kind of diverted all the traffic around. We're showing one-way westbound on Lakeside Avenue and Old Lancaster Road. We are maintaining two-way flow,
Just to that parking lot,
right, just on the first short segment of Old Lancaster Road. It's wide enough, and that gets traffic in and out of the driveway for handles, but then beyond that point, it's one-way westbound, and on the next set of slides, it'll be one-way eastbound. But we are maintaining two-way, at least for that initial segment, just for customers that want to get to that parking lot. So these are the volumes with one-way westbound. Why don't we skip to the next slide? So figure 15, so this shows, I'm sorry. Did I not?
No, you're good.
Figure 15. You're good. So these are levels of service if we go one-way westbound based on Route 30 today, just the way it is today. No complete streets, no nothing. And what you'll see is, oh, and in every one of these options that we're gonna discuss going forward, we had to assume something up here, so we're assuming the 1B signal option. Right, we can modify that to whatever the preferred ends up being, but we had to assume something. But it's really not gonna change what's happening down here. So this is if we go with one-way westbound without the complete streets plans, you've got 2 lanes in each direction on Route 30, and you'll see everything's working. Right, so. In fact, we need. With the one-way westbound, we're now setting a lot more traffic, well, not a lot more, but more traffic, right? The people that today are coming out at Lakeside and 30, they're now coming out here. This intersection is still working.
Yeah, cool, that's good.
And that is I mean, that's where most traffic's going anyway.
Yeah, I think, but keep going, I think we'll come back to this.
Yeah, so go to the next slide, figure 16. So this is the same analysis, but now it's implementing the complete streets improvement. So we've gone 1 lane in each direction. Everything still works. This intersection still works with the complete streets improvements. What doesn't work is now, so on the previous slide and this slide, we don't have any traffic coming out Lakeside Avenue. This delay coming up Lakeside Avenue gets a little bit worse than what you saw on the previous slide because you've got less gaps because you have less lanes on Route 30.
Well, it's gonna happen no matter what, with the road, with the complete.
Right,
streets.
correct. So the one thing I will mention, if we're gonna do any one-way configurations on Lakeside and Old Lancaster Road, even though from a capacity standpoint, it's working, everything's working very well, with one-way westbound. One of the options Randy talked about, we know, as you just said, we know we need some kind of modification at this intersection. This, with one-way westbound, anybody that today is turning left here, we've now added a lot of left turn traffic.
Right.
There is probably a lot of merit to cleaning up and squaring up that intersection and bringing it to a more, really what I think we ought to do is, which was the first slide, 2 offset T intersections.
Yeah.
Bring them both at 90 degrees, offset from one another. It'll be easier to make the left, it'll be more comfortable for a driver, you'll have better sight lines because you're teed up, you're not at a skewed angle. So for a lot of reasons, we don't technically need to do it from a level of service standpoint, but from a safety and driver comfortability standpoint, I think any of the one-way combinations, we should be planning for clearing up that intersection. But with that as the only real improvement needed, one-way westbound is the easier, yes.
Yeah.
Is that the 2 offset T's? Yes.
Yes, yeah,
That-
I started to say, but yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't analyze that, but that is, in my opinion, the way to go.
Yeah.
One-way westbound, if you're gonna go one-way westbound or eastbound, one-way westbound is frankly the better of the two,
Yeah.
because no major improvements are needed.
Yeah.
So we go to the next figure 17, so this is now the diversion of traffic if we go one-way eastbound. So if we're going one-way eastbound, this is a pretty significant impact, because we know the predominant movement today is people that come down Old Lancaster Road, they go to the right,
Like,
and they go here, or they come up here and make this left. Which I guess they can still do that, but yeah, to get to that light.
Yeah.
All that traffic now is gonna be making a left at this intersection, and we've got a lot of traffic that we've added here, which doesn't exist today. So kind of foreshadowing, this intersection's a problem with the eastbound scenario. So if you go to figure 18. So this shows, again, based on Route 30 as it is today, not complete streets, but keeping 2 lanes in each direction. And the reason we have that scenario in here is it's a very real possibility that you may want to move forward with some combination of these ideas before the complete streets improvements get built. So that's why we tested this scenario. So what happens now, you've got a lot of extra traffic coming down Lakeside Avenue because of the one-way. This is now a pretty severe F in this direction. In fact, this has such. This is such a bad F, the delays and queues here. It causes an F here, it's causing an F here, it's causing a real major ripple effect. So what is the solution? If you go to the next figure, 19. So the solution is simple, you put a signal in here. It's warranted now, and those Fs go away. And then the next slide is with the complete streets improvement. So if we go to figure 20, same thing. We now only have one lane in each direction on Route 30. This intersection always works. We have delays here. You have the same delays that ripple through because of this massive amount of traffic coming out of the stop sign. But if you go to figure 21, and if we put a signal in, we can mitigate those delays. So that's the answer. One-way eastbound can work, but you need a signal at the intersection. And again, whether the westbound or the eastbound, because you're now adding a lot of turning movements at the lakeside intersection. I think anything we do with this should be kind of coupled with splitting up a bit. So that was quick on the westbound, eastbound, but that's it. I mean, it's kind of, to me, westbound is the easier of the two options.
The only thing I'd say that this option eastbound is still important is it was stack up. And then we reduce that section of Old Lancaster is where, you know, most of the pedestrian traffic is.
This section.
That's right,
Right,
that's
and
where
it
it goes,
goes.
and it diverts it away from that.
Right.
Yes, you add a signal, but it makes that less traffic on the more pedestrian friendly road. I mean, you can in theory. No, you can, never mind. I was gonna say you can make that pedestrian only, if you signalize that intersection.
Yeah, can you,
You could potentially make that.
can you back up to slide?
And it might slow people down coming into the village, they have a signal there.
Can you go to slide 17, figure 17, excuse me.
Right, but the complete street would slow them down, so they're down and and be better.
So here's what you were saying, right? So now this left turn coming down through the tunnel, everybody's turning left. We've added a lot of traffic here. We would warrant a signal, but you've got
Still
certainly a lot less traffic here than you have. Not
That's
nothing.
not nothing, I mean, 220,
Well, because that is still a predominant.
Yeah, that's the
right?
way you're
Especially in the
going.
afternoon, a
Yeah.
lot of people are doing that. But the morning, especially in the morning, this is a very heavy southbound flow in the morning. They're all now gonna do this. Unless they divert, right? Some people may divert elsewhere.
right?
It almost seems though that if it's such a heavy morning thing, there's not gonna be that much pedestrian traffic in the morning though, so maybe that won't be that much of an issue.
It is a little heavier. It's a little heavier in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this stage, is cost effective?
It,
Because the cost of the signals,
Yeah.
you know, that's long term for the township.
right. So. That's really the only difference. Because again, with any of the one-way options, I think we need to look at squaring up the intersection. So it's really westbound, you don't need a signal, eastbound, you do need a signal. That's the difference. So $300,000 is probably the difference between westbound and eastbound flow.
I mean, I think. Just to me, it doesn't make sense to have the people go eastbound on Lakeside and then backtrack, because. The majority of the traffic wants to go westbound on Lancaster, it doesn't make sense to have them go eastbound on Lakeside and then backtrack back on Lancaster.
You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna just shoot right through Casey's.
Yeah. It's a good point. No, I do think westbound makes most sense.
But that, I mean, the cut through
I
is
mean,
risk.
thinking it one way is not gonna make the owner of Casey's happy, because
If we make
Either way, it's
if we
gonna-
make it one way eastbound, I could see them shooting through Casey's, but if we make it one way westbound, I could see them more likely just. Using Old Lancaster.
well, actually, they couldn't actually cut through Casey's, because Casey's is
Yeah.
about
Casey's is-
100 feet up to the left.
Right, it's just
Yeah.
west of
Yeah,
that.
so they couldn't cut through
Yeah.
Casey's, they would be cutting
Probably
through the Verizon store.
Cut through back here, one of those businesses.
So Chris, on a continuum, one could start with the simplest being, stop signs and bollards creating a safe walkway through. Or some form of that
Under the bridge.
under the bridge. No signalization, no change to the one-way. two-way
Potentially,
nature.
we'll verify that, but yes.
Next increment up from that is some kind of signalization.
Yep.
Still, you could maintain the signalization without changing one-way, two-way. Then third iteration would be signalization combined with east one-way, which I'm not saying is better, but it's gonna be less expensive, less intrusive. Westbound, yes, that's right, my bad. And then the fourth, the most expensive, most significant option would be the one-way
Eastbound.
going eastbound because it has the most signalization.
Right.
And there's easily is it like that 300,000, is that the difference between the most simple and the most expensive, or?
Because I think everything else is sort of common amongst the various alternatives, so I think at a high level, yes, the cost of the signal is probably the difference.
You know, so
Is 300 the number? I'm not sure, but.
and 300, would that be a number for the signalization, the other signal
That's gonna be I don't know, I'm not sure, that's a little bit of an awkward signal, so so the next step after today, if we have guidance towards a preferred alternative, we're gonna start, so again, this is a planning study, so we're not doing any designs, there's no engineering, but we'll do kind of order of magnitude ballpark estimates on cost, whether it be an actual dollar value or whether it just be, well, you know, this option costs more than that option. But somehow we have this scorecard and we're just gonna kind of populate that scorecard, cost being one of the factors to consider.
So a big jump in the cost will be when just that second option will be the third option will be marginally more than the second, the fourth will be marginally more than but you'll have a big jump between stop signs and bollards and signalization. That would seem to be the biggest.
As a sum.
Yes.
Yes.
I know it's not really relevant to this planning study, but one thing to consider would be lighting the tunnel.
Yeah, and I'm gonna include that as a recommendation, and they're all options.
Do we have any idea if there's like how far the power is, what kind of endeavor that would be?
So I talked to Officer Boyd about the lighting underneath it, and I talked to the public works director as well. And neither of them seem to think it would be a huge, yeah, to just have a light mounted maybe to one of the utility poles that's right straight out from the bridge.
Doesn't seem like it would be an issue based upon the scheme of things.
Yeah, it's not like there's.
Civil engineering gut tells me it's not an issue.
Yeah, just as long as there's power nearby, I think it would be fine. I don't know what's back there.
This is, we could also do the stop signs and bollards idea. And then I think on top of that, though, you could do the one-way westbound, right? Without that much incremental cost.
Agreed, yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
Can you do the stop signs and bollards without, is that just planning or is that to actually go out and put bollards out there with the stop signs? Is that what you meant? I was just, because my question was, can you do that? And have pedestrians there with no sidewalk? Like you're kind of guiding them to, it's a free for all until you get under the bridge and then you're safe and then you come down and it's a free for all again.
Yeah, it's probably a township decision, but
I've never felt like I was risking my life on a left that through them. You know, you get to the bridge, you're wondering.
You're questioning your decision.
Yeah, I mean, also continuing a painted line around would probably do it.
we know pedestrians, although not a lot, but we know pedestrians are risking walking under that tunnel today, so to do anything would be safer.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think you could do that without having sidewalks leading to the tunnel, but I do think in a phased approach, it should be part of the strategy over time to build sidewalks that would direct people safely outside of the roadway to the tunnel. And the whole reason we're doing one way, not just for the sake of one way, but we also want to, and we haven't looked at this yet, but the reason we're looking at we can do the one lane under the tunnel and not touch Lancaster and Lakeside, we keep it two-way. But the whole reason the planning commission was interested in the one way is, well, what does that, taking two lanes down to one lane, what does that add in real estate? What opportunities does it create? Can we do more on-street parking on Old Lancaster Road? Can we provide pickup drop-off areas in front of School of Rock? Can we provide wider sidewalks? So those are things that at a planning kind of high level, that's my next step after tonight. Is to do a little bit like a little cartoon sketch to show, well, hey, here's an idea where we could fit a sidewalk in if we go one way westbound.
So what I was getting at was, we could potentially accomplish doing the one-way westbound without having to signalize everything at Francis, Old Lancaster, and Warren. If we're just gonna do stop signs there, right?
If the analysis pulls up, yes, which I believe it will, but I'll check it.
That would be what I'd like to do.
Yeah. I do think that there's a lot of positives in having Lakeside and Old Lancaster one way, getting that extra space for parallel parking or something like that, travel zones.
And that'll be the
Wider
next,
sidewalks and stuff like that, you know, because there's. My assumption, I should say, is that if we do make a sidewalk or a pedestrian walkway under this bridge, it's gonna attract a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah.
And, you know, having that whole pedestrian plaza into the center of Berwyn, especially the handles at least, you know, it's gonna.
Yeah.
And I think it, yes, put more traffic as bridge and Waterloo, but where the traffic should be.
Yeah.
At the supervisors meeting, public comment did mention about ambulances and all that stuff, so that would be something that we should consider. If we do make it one way. They say they use that, bridge quite often to get to that side of Easton.
can we set up a? Who can I speak with?
I'll connect you,
Okay,
I'll send you.
yeah. The signal would work well for the ambulance or whoever, because
Yeah.
with preemption, but it probably doesn't work as gracefully with the stop sign.
And the ambulance wouldn't need to change its pattern, would it? It would just have to go down to the next intersection. Right now, it could turn on either one to go underneath. It would just have to follow the pattern that is established.
Where would it come from, the fire station? No,
I think it does, I think it comes from the Berwick.
then it would have to go down, say it's getting to that neighborhood, you would have to go down
One more intersection.
and come double back that hard left.
Against traffic.
It would just have to follow the same pattern that the vehicles would have to follow, and then there's element of choice in this that.
And then there is that little bit of extra delay at the bridge itself. With stop signs, you're gonna have to, hopefully people clear out.
Right.
So that could be a little.
Still seems like going over a bridge would be the fastest way to get to that neighborhood.
Yeah, right,
Because you go straight across from the fire station,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
but, yeah, again, I'm not.
It just seems like there's nothing in government that is more representative of trade-off than traffic engineering.
Yeah.
There is just no solution that doesn't come at the expense of something else, more than any other discipline. When we have to make a pump bigger, we're not usually worried about the side effects of making the pump bigger, or the pipe bigger, but
Right.
in traffic engineering, nothing comes free.
Right. So I think you could phase this, right? So you do the stop sign configuration on either side of the tunnel, you can fit a pedestrian way in. And you can do that pretty quickly, even before you have sidewalks leading to it, right? And then part of that later phase will be to over time build sidewalks that will safely carry people to that location. The one way westbound, if that's where the planning commission is leaning. We're gonna add volume and turning movements at Lakeside and 30 that don't exist today, so. We're saying that shouldn't happen unless we tee up that intersection.
Right.
Then that's probably not something we do at the same time as the tunnel. We could do that a year or two later. That would be a separate project. Because it's gonna there's some design and cost to be spent with teeing up that intersection.
And that does take it out of sort of the minimalist approach, if sort of immediate and minimalist is important, teeing up that intersection is not a minimalist thing. Or an immediate thing.
And teeing it up isn't required, right? It was,
And that's a function of going one way that you would do that, not of the
not a ton,
tunnel.
correct?
Yeah.
But if you think you gotta do that, you do it westbound.
It sounds like, Mike, what you're thinking is the best solution is the relatively modest stop sign approach to see if that works, combined with the one-way approach. That's what I thought I heard you say.
But they don't all have to happen at the same time. They're probably because different level of effort for each component, so they could be phased.
Right.
And if you use that approach, it becomes not minimalist, which is okay. It can either not happen, it could happen later, or it could happen immediately. It just does become less minimalist if you have to tee up an intersection.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, than do it otherwise.
Doing the stop signs also gives us a little bit of an experiment to see how much traffic do we divert to
Yeah.
other areas.
I like that idea. Yeah, if you do that first and nothing
And
else.
then you have an idea. See,
Is there
you
some-
better set the expectation that this is not a through road
Yeah.
or a easy through road anymore.
Is there something more effective than bollards to protect the pedestrians?
Nail strips.
Moving them,
Would a double face barrier?
Maybe.
Not as like temporary Jersey barrier.
Yeah. We'll have to look into it.
because it just doesn't seem like that's terribly,
Right.
it's not protective.
They'll do it, but you're right. I'd prefer something that's a little.
You're thinking something like you see on the highway that to avoid merging on highways, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing, just the plastic.
Yeah, there's gotta be a solution, right? Right? It might be unpleasant to look at, but there's gotta be something that's.
I mean, I don't know that you need. Traffic's gonna be moving very slow under that tunnel. I don't know that we need a Jersey barrier.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, Dalesford doesn't have Jersey.
No, I think you could just do sidewalk, right? You could do sidewalks,
People are all driving like crazy. They're not going slow.
but you could,
If it's elevated, like, right, if
Right.
you're, like, right now, I think it's a little elevated, I think you'll be okay.
right, there is
Yeah.
curb.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, yeah.
curb and like a 1 foot section of curb then on either side. And if we could bump that out and actually make a 5 foot or 6 foot sidewalk that has a curb edge,
Yeah.
that in of itself is gonna deter traffic.
Yeah.
And you could put a fence, like a decorative
Right.
fence.
Some fence.
Particularly at the slow speeds that you have there, that was a positive benefit of the last, was that the speeds are slow,
Right. Oh, they are, yeah.
very exciting. Part of its excitement is that it seems practical,
Yeah,
which not
and we have heard
all.
And cheap.
multiple people. from the
Yeah, and not
neighborhood.
everything we evaluate is practical and inexpensive.
And I imagine most people in the village would appreciate it, but I know those people in those neighborhoods would like to
Yeah,
walk to the
I mean,
village.
just think, if you live there with kids, it is unsafe for you to let your
Yeah.
10-year-old,
Go to the farmer's market.
your predecessor, Paul, said this at one of your meetings, like, this is like, people love to live here. I live a quarter mile from a
Yeah.
park, I can't let my kid walk to it because he risks his life. He's 10 years old and I walk him like he's a toddler.
Yeah.
So, these are the kind of things you all want as a community, these are the kind of trade-offs you have to, and, you know, the reality, if you're trying to improve the lives of pedestrians, it's gonna come a little bit at the expense of vehicles, and you just have to accept it.
That's what it is.
Chris, when's the next time you're gonna be in front of the planning commission?
So, again, I'm not gonna go any further until we check in with the supervisor, so I assume that will be August 7th. So when is the next planning commission meeting?
September 1st?
Yeah, that, we're not gonna, there's too much to do, so maybe October. Would October be okay to come back and kind of button this up?
Sure, yeah.
Do you have is there a commitment from them, have you?
Yeah, have you gotten the feedback you need from us?
We like, if it works, stop signs as the interim solution for the tunnel. And then eventually we can go to signals if need be, kind of that 1D, 1E scenario.
I think one B is not gonna happen with that's too big a sacrifice, I think, for those people living there.
Right, it's the
To
one, if we have to go signal.
three-way giant light at that, I think if
I
you
agree.
could make E work where it's like, hey, there's one signal above the tunnel and it's really for pedestrian control. And there's signals on the other side, I don't think people care about signals on the south side.
Right.
But I think you could figure out if one E can be done from an engineering perspective.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if the stop sign, we kind of realign Francis Avenue and we do the stop sign option as the interim solution. Until such time, the
Right.
signal, if it's even ever needed, right,
Right.
because if we are pushing traffic away. So that seems to be the recommendation.
Yeah.
Then for the one-way, two-way, for the one-way options, there is support for one-way westbound. So I think that's all I need there, and anything we do, either one-way westbound or eastbound, but in this case it's westbound. There is support for teeing up Lakeside and 30.
If it's one way westbound, the need to tee it up is much less presumably.
No, I think
No,
it's
go
the
away, yeah, because
it's
you have to come
more-
from the other
Because you're gonna be
direction.
now pushing a lot more traffic
Okay.
past Midland, they're gonna go up to Lakeside,
Fair enough.
and that left is a hard left,
Yeah.
right? It's more than 90 degrees.
Yeah.
It's not gonna feel very comfortable, I think we wanna make it inviting.
The issue is going the other way, you have to signalize it for it to work.
Yeah. So.
And you would have a lot of folks coming down Lakeside making the heavy right, which they'd be turning awkwardly.
Yeah.
You'd wanna tee it up no matter what.
Does your recommendation include attempting or trying to initiate that one way now, or is it just try to build the pedestrian underpass with the stop signs and pause, see how that goes, and then make a decision?
Personally, I look at the one way as a addendum to the complete street discussion. I feel like that should be decided on as one decision, in my opinion. Whereas the tunnel, I want to move forward with what we talked about tonight as quick as
Yeah,
possible,
But
but
it's separate.
I know it's.
They're kind
That
of,
was scope that we issue guys on, but
No,
I
but
think from
they're-
a township perspective, it's
they're gonna be,
coming up with adopting
Yeah,
one plan.
they're gonna be tied together. I don't think the timing we need to worry about tonight. I think I have enough in terms of what you like, which options you like. I think we'll come back and I think it's gonna need to be a phased approach. We're not gonna do it all at one time, and I think I have a clear idea as to what that phasing ought to be. And so next time I'm in front of you, we'll kind of present it as a phased approach.
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta do this before you can do this kind of thing.
And I do think that, if the complete streets fails for whatever reason, you'd still like to be able to get this
This could be a standalone project.
as a one-way, to
Yes.
get the extra parking,
Yeah.
to get the wider sidewalks and stuff like that,
Yes.
and, make it much more walkable for people on the
I'm not quite
north side.
clear on the south side where you have two stop signs, people looking at each other and the tunnel's here. And how do you see who's coming through on the other side? Like, how do you shift when you get two cars? And maybe a car coming through the other, I don't know how you see who's coming on the other direction. Because it's not a street.
Yeah, good question. It's why, so there's only a stop sign today in one direction, so westbound Lakeside. Eastbound Old Lancaster does not have a stop sign. They just sort of make their maneuver, which to me is almost puzzling because you get a lot of close calls.
Yeah.
My hope, and this is one of the things after tonight, we're gonna look at some of the sort of the feasibility issues in the field. If we're taking a 20-foot wide road under the bridge and we're narrowing it down to, let's say, a 14-foot lane, my hope is that we can, the Lakeside and Old Lancaster approaches, kind of move those stop bars closer so that when you're stopped, you can look right down that tunnel. We're gonna have to, we have to achieve sight distance, right? Because it doesn't work without sight
Yeah,
lines.
that's what my.
So, that's a key next step. Good question.
And if you were to pick a one-way option, you would reduce the concern that Susan just identified.
Exactly, one way,
Would mitigate that.
one of them goes
So
away.
it becomes
To a
a,
huge degree, it would,
it
yeah.
becomes a, in the ledger effect of this, it becomes something for, hey, there is some, that's one of the
Yeah,
things.
Susan, that was your point, right? So
It's just narrower.
The one lane under the bridge works even better under either of the two one-way options. Yeah, it works better. Yeah, because you eliminate the conflict.
Because if you chose the minimalist sidewalk approach, you could also choose the one-way approach because you don't have to tee that intersection, that there's an element of discretion to teeing the intersection.
Not sure either. Which intersection, on the south side?
Lakeside.
Yeah, Lakeside and Route 30.
Oh, that's teeing that only comes. I think there's value in teeing it up. Even if we did none of this, but I think in the context of this study, you would only really need to tee it up if you do one of the one-way scenarios.
So what I'm wondering is that a condition that if you choose to go one way, you must tee the intersection? Because it does convert it from an easy standalone project to a less than easy standalone project.
And my recommendation would be if we are going to either of the planning commission is endorsing one-way westbound. If we go to one-way westbound, we should be teeing up that.
So it creates a little bit of a breakpoint that relatively easy to test it with the stop sign approach and the sidewalk and something that produces safe access.
Just at the bridge.
Just at the bridge, and increment more, a level more of difficulty if you make it one way, because it does introduce that teeing of the intersection.
You could actually make Lakeside one way. Going out towards Route 30. And have the other be two way, you'd still get the benefit, you wouldn't have to tee up Lakeside, but you'd still get the benefit of. Being able to see through the tunnel. If you just made Lakeside one way.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I thought I heard you say was that whatever way it goes, that intersection should be squared. So
Not that the other one was two way.
Yeah, it's suggesting it's keeping it two-way in front of school.
I mean, it's
Because
not ideal.
then you wouldn't be diverting as
Yeah,
much
yeah,
traffic,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yes, that would
Yeah,
avoid the need to square it up, but I don't think that's achieving the goal the planning commission set out. But yes, you're right. But it doesn't create the opportunities with one lane of traffic that you were hoping for in the most congested section of Old Lancaster Road. But you're right as well.
No, I was just thinking, if you phase it in, you could phase in easily in one way on the one side without doing the next phase.
Yeah.
it preserves the minimalist approach,
The
which
minimalist.
is sometimes valuable, and again, you're not costing anything, it's just paint and signs.
Right.
And you're gonna learn a lot with paint and signs.
For the record, Chris texted and said he agrees with Bill, starting with the stop signs.
All right, that's good info, because it seemed to be there was unanimous consent of that incremental approach, which is pretty valuable for the township, I think.
Yeah, that's great. If I think I can be ready for September, I'll let you know, but probably October is more realistic.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no rush on my end, I
Right.
just wanted to, because I'm sending out a notification to the residents.
Okay. All right,
You guys.
Could I return to Sue's question about on-street parking?
Yeah,
So
oh, yeah.
we currently have 13 parking spaces. And with the 3-lane cross section, we go up to 24 spaces. So what do we gain? 11.
Almost double.
Almost double.
Wow.
so. Good, I'm done.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
appreciate the conversation.
I got one.
How are the Phillies going?
Thank you.
Got one.
I knew she would know.
I knew it, who's playing,
What are you watching back there?
who's playing,
The meeting.
Oh, okay.
who's in right field, who's at third, like, what did they do?
Do we have any errors?
It's all the pages, I guess.
I know, you know,
Harper's in.
Harper's in right and Holmes at first.
How many-
Stocks at third.
How many
double plays did
JP and Alex do?
I only have the score.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
Instead of.
No.
All right, next item on the agenda is the 2027 planning commission initiatives. You need us with this at all, or anything?
No, you guys are good.
Okay.
Right, yeah, thank you. Next month.
Or it's in October. Yeah. We might be back in September anyway for complete streets, so. All right, good evening.
So I have Nick, Nick gave me a report from the Ped Bike Committee. Which I know share with Colleen and share with the group, but just what they had as six items to put on the short list for planning commission initiatives. So I'll report those and then I got just, I think. The others are in progress with things that we already talked about, but the township wide bike trail path connectivity. Which is already in progress. Sharpswood Trail connectivity. And there's a stream crossing in there. What we just talked about, Old Lancaster Avenue and the Lakeside Avenue, and generally, I don't want to speak for them, but we did look at the early stuff that was presented last month, and they option C, which is the westbound one way.
Yeah.
It was the consensus is the best option there. The Conestoga Road Sidewalk Project, which we're reapplying for a grant that we were declined for last year, so that's pretty easy to advance. And then there's sidewalk around the library, and then cross municipal sidewalk and bicycle coordination with True Different. So those are the six that came from the Ped Bike committee.
Motion made.
You're okay with this?
And Colleen, they're all things that we're already
This we've been talking about.
moving on.
Yeah,
And then the library sidewalk, that's the U-shaped corridor, right?
No, I
That
think,
doesn't go down further.
it touches it, but it's
I think they want to go back to the old parking study where they evaluated parking in front of the library.
Very good. Yeah, I've lost my visual on it, so there isn't
Yeah.
any much visual much that I can opine on. Okay.
yeah. I would say, well, when do we need to actually, we formally kind of submit this list? Because we have to submit this list to the supervisors, right?
I would say October would
Okay.
be like the latest.
So I would say for today.
Yeah.
If we can just add this to the notes. Or, whatever that process is, and then we can discuss it next month.
Yes, I mean, this
And
is.
we have plenty of time to.
Do we need to
come up
make
with
any
the-
movement on this?
No, it was
No.
just a discussion to keep
Get
it,
started on it.
yeah,
Okay, cause it'll definitely.
I guess I should clarify, this subgroup probably won't be able to meet again until October, so they wanted to get this in front of us.
I would just like to have Nick and Stacy here.
100%.
Throw some input
sure.
into, yeah.
And all the ones that you started on are all continuing, so you don't have to worry about that, like
Yeah.
most of the things on that list are all happening. Because we
Correct.
have to finish them.
The only thing I don't think we've discussed as a body is the library stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
cause I
playing
mean,
a little
we
bit
talked about
of-
Sharpswood stuff, the whole like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all, I just wanted to present that.
Cool.
Other than that, I'm good.
So we don't need to do anything with that.
no, just a discussion to keep
Do you
the,
need to talk about that E-shaped corridor or is that something?
no, the president didn't show up.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment.
No public comment,
And nobody online?
nobody online.
Okay. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 1st. And this meeting is adjourned.
You.